A healthy obsession with kaiju. I am your co-host Kent, and with me is your other co-host
Jason. How's it going, peeps?
And so this is our second stint through Spectre-Man. We're covering episodes 4 through 6 in this episode. But before we get into that, Jason, is there any housekeeping that needs to be taken care of?
Indeed, there's some housekeeping. Let me show you the overlay here.
Okay.
As far as finding Daikaiju Network here, you can find everything, including all of our social media, in one place here at our Linktree URL that you can see on the screen there. Linktree/Daikaiju Network. And you can follow us or watch us on these following. I'm sort of brain farting here right now. So here's our video platforms here: YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble. And also we're streaming live on Facebook Live. I need to update that. And then
I was going to say, I don't
as
see
far
it.
as audio platforms, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and as well as TuneIn. And you can find everything, including video episodes and audio versions of those episodes, and as well as some blogs and etc. on our own website at daikaijunetwork.com.
Awesome. So with that, did we just want to go ahead and dive into episodes 4 through 6 of Spectre-Man?
Why don't we talk? I've been noticing, and you probably do too, as far as was it the kind of the newest, latest kaiju convention, All Monsters Attack, that they just recently announced that they're going to be relocating from Indianapolis to the former home of G-Fest over the past several years here over at the Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare there in Rosemont from was it the May 5th through 7th, and so far they've announced quite a few noticeable faces. Tsutomu Kitagawa, who played as the Millennium Godzilla there, and then and I forget the name of one individual who played at, I think, the kind of Americanized version of Ultraman back in the 90s, and then a gal who played as Baragon in the GMK 2001 film there. So far they've got a pretty good noticeable lineup there. So, and they've already been releasing. They already have reservations set for that convention next year, but as far as I go, probably still won't be going to it. I'm kind of taking a break off of the whole convention scene, so I kind of want to still do some of the other things I've been wanting to. But in my honest opinion, whenever I go back to the whole convention scene there, I would definitely at least want to check that out.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in going, but because of when it falls on the calendar, when you got 2 kids, especially younger kids, you're screwed for a while in your life, because your life revolves around their schedules. And here's the thing, though. The way I look at it is this: my wife goes on conferences a handful of times a year, and that's during a normal year, not COVID year or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And for example, actually, she's leaving for a couple of days to go to Toronto for a conference here at the end of this upcoming week. And I thought to myself, my wife's very cool anyways. She generally, unless there's an incredible conflict somewhere as far as scheduling and just anything else that is going on, will let me almost do anything that I wish to do. And I kind of thought to myself, that's basically a Friday through Sunday, right? So yeah. I could probably do it. Sadly, I can't take my son because he'll be in school, although I thought, okay, he can miss one day. It's just one day of school. The neighbors here just this last week were gone because the husband had a work conference down in Disney World, and so he was down there for a work conference for a couple of days, and then the rest of the week they were spending time in the Disney World park. So I thought, they're gone for a week. It's Disney World. Like, just take one day to go to a kaiju convention. So I am thinking about it. I'm not saying I am, but I am thinking about it. And so this All Monsters Attack convention is something that really is intriguing me because they got a lot of guests this year. A lot of people that go to G-Fest went there this year. And yeah, it may not be as completely evolved, so to speak, as G-Fest, but this was, I think, their first year. They'll get there, assuming that they're still continuing to be successful enough that they go on and on and on for the foreseeable future. So, and I've talked about this before, and I say, and I'm not going to dive into this. All of this can be part of a totally separate podcast, but I'm looking for something different. And, I enjoy G-Fest an awful lot. It's something you and I have been able to share something in common with for a decade, and I've really enjoyed it. It's a means for us to get together for a weekend and to be around like-minded people that share the same things that we are very much interested in. But I mean, let's just come out and say it. There have been issues with the convention on various levels.
Yeah, and then I know if some of you have watched some of our reviews on G-Fest over the last few years, that just seems like it's sort of like now a whole lot of changes or improvements have been made.
That is definitely one of my biggest pet peeves with G-Fest is that there's just, New Hotel was something fun and unique because it provided simply a different environment. But again, I'm not going to get into deep stuff here just because we're not here to talk about conventions. But there was a notable absence in one area, and at the same time, there were problems in other areas as well. And I hate to say I'm looking for something new and I'm looking for something different. I mean, you and I have been talking, off and on for, 3-4 years about going to PowerCon. PowerCon, I think even recently was just in the Midwest this year.
Yeah, I think somewhere in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio?
I think was when it was. Yeah, and so you and I have periodically been talking about maybe going to that.
Yeah, because I know for many years up until that point this year that's located, I think, around Anaheim or something.
The LA airport, actually, like it's just right off
somewhere
the
around there. Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to try All Monsters Attack. They'll get there. They just, they're brand new. I mean, when you're I was actually considering this the first year. I was really impressed with who they were able to attract as far as celebrity talent to that convention, because it's usually, you get either low-level people, if not nobody, for a couple of years until you get to a point to where you can establish yourself more. And not only did they have significantly more guests, they had high-quality guests too. They aren't fooling around. And there's always Monsterpalooza. I think there's one around the Houston area. I think they're really trying to get going as well. Like there's like a couple others that I think they're really trying to get going, specifically for the kaiju front. So looking for something different, and I'm hopefully we can get to that and check it out at some point.
Yeah, if you do possibly plan on going there by yourself or taking your son to that, I would definitely maybe just kind of do a review and kind of give your experience on that. If you do,
I thought about it. I'll keep that to myself. Okay. No one else has to know about it. Just me, myself, and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No one has to know. I'm not here to just share my opinions on stuff. I'm here to just, whatever.
Shooting
I'm
shit.
just here. I mean, what am I here for?
Absolutely nothing. So then why am I
Exactly. We're just here for nothing.
here? So yeah, that's basically the only thing I just wanted to quickly bring up for those that have been seeing some of the posts for the convention coming early May next year.
All right. So, are we ready to dive into Spectre-Man episodes 4 through 6?
No. I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. Episode 4 is titled Kara Searches Among the Earthlings.
Or The Fury of Dr. Gory, Part 2.
Okay. Sure. This is the thing I wanted to bring up that I told you before we started. I said I'm not going to bring up pre-recording because I want to do just kind of get your pure reaction to it, as I say. This show, Spectre-Man, is really an LSD trip. I really had to wonder if I had taken something before I started watching this batch of episodes, because as when we get to the third and final episode that we're covering in this episode of the podcast, I really began to wonder. I'm like, what in the absolute hell am I getting myself into now? And this show, Spectre-Man,
things are starting to get very interesting.
Things are picking up now in a way that I will say this. It is a combination of incredibly asinine stupidity, while at the same time, because of it being so stupid, I am enjoying it because of its stupidity as well. So, this is getting into just Nuck and Futz realm. And I just, man, this batch of episodes we're covering here, I think with each episode, with 4, and then you get into 5, and then you get into 6, gradually becomes crazier and crazier and crazier. I'm at a loss for words. Why don't you take it away here?
Yeah, as far as episode 4 goes, I think overall for me, when it comes to this one, it seems like some of the post-production editing parts don't seem to quite fit. As well, it seems like the episode is sort of all over the place on this one, to where some things just don't quite make sense to one another or scene by scene within this one. It's like you have it starts off where episode 3 left off, where you had Zeron coming up and destroying this railway or something, and you had Spectre-Man growing into the kaiju's size in order to battle it, and then he defeats Zeron with the Spectre Ray, explodes it, everything. I think within the first few minutes, and then all of a sudden it just goes into you having Karis and Dr. Gory kidnapping a bunch of people off the streets and everything here. And then you have maybe like a couple or so minutes later, and I think this is probably where you want me to go, where Karis walks around Tokyo, like disguising himself. I don't even know what kind of uniform he was dressing up as. I don't know if he was trying to be like, it's like kind of a Western-ish
no.
Mexican type of
he's
outfit.
Dressing like he's dressing like an older woman in a Sunday sundress with her full brim cap, and his entire gorilla face is exposed. Once in a while, he may put on like some glasses or sunglasses, and he's going around. There's one point where he stumbles upon this group of 3 students, and they're having an outdoor picnic. He's thinking to himself. You hear his inner voice, and he's going, I wonder what they're eating. And he goes up and he starts taking one of the sandwiches and starts eating it. And then he freaks them and they disperse. And my favorite moment.
Well, it's like Dr. Gory.
To a nightclub that evening. And he starts dancing around and everyone is so trash. They're like, oh, dude, that's a cool man. Like, take it off. And he's like, I'm from outer space. You don't want to mess with me. And they're like, oh, dude, and he's down there on the dance floor, like dancing like this. It is not only the stupidest thing, but I love it so much too because it is so stupid.
Well, then you have him go, and he's generally out because Dr. Gory ordered him to, kind of observe human behavior and all that stuff in order to take over the world and everything. But it just didn't seem like, it sort of seemed like he was, but then just started to, do sort of his own thing. And this is sort of where, like, the title of this episode from my DVD just seems like it's just sort of out of place to where Dr. Gory really isn't part of this entire episode as much compared to the previous episode. It's just more or less, it's like Kara's Day Off or something for that matter.
I got a different title for that, but you're not going to hear about it until I get my final thoughts.
But besides all that, after the whole clubbing and everything, he gets confronted by a drunk person. It's like, oh, why don't you go up for a drink with me? And then they go to this soba ramen shop there, and like, oh, give me some alcohol or something like that. And then Cars is like, methane gas for me.
Yeah, and they don't even blink. Like he subtly, you barely can hear him say, "Oh, methane gas." Like you barely hear him say it, and they don't even stop and look at him. They don't say where they're. Oh, here you go. Here's your drink.
Yeah. And then he just dips his finger in there and and that sort of thing, and then like he just starts chugging whatever it was in that glass there, and it's like shoving the drunk guy, and then the drunk guy starts to get pissed off and tries to fight him, and then Cars kills both that drunk guy and then the guy that's running the restaurant and everything.
One of the interesting lines that Kara says in this episode is that humans are too stupid to realize that I am, in a disguise. And I go, yeah, they really are, because your entire face is exposed as a gorilla face, and no one is kind of like, I wonder if that's a gorilla. I mean, the closest thing you had was in a nightclub, but they thought it was wearing a mask, and they didn't try very hard to see whether or not it was wearing a mask to like try to pull it off or anything like that. They were so trash that they, really
and then
proceed any further.
And then at this point, Overlord informs Joji about Cars going on the rampage, and then he transforms into Spectre Man confronting Karas. And then this is the point to where that Gore is like just sort of getting pissed off at Karas' behavior and stuff, and then sends out like 8 minions and stuff, which turn out to be these kidnapped people that they kidnapped earlier off the streets and everything. When Spectre Man defeats both of them and they turn back into human, then that's basically the episode. But the interesting thing is like they fight somewhere where there's some barn that comes into play out of the middle of nowhere, like kind of basically in the middle of a big city with a pitchfork that Spectre Man falls into and gets stabbed, but then he's just fine after that.
Yeah. That's what we're getting ourselves into with this show. My question to you, Jason, and this is a legitimate question. What was the actual point of this episode? Because all it is was Karis having a day out on the town.
Well,
that's basically what it was.
I was just saying that with the post-production editing for this particular episode, just seemed like things didn't quite fit in with one another, and things just didn't quite make sense. And with the title,
a whole lot doesn't make sense.
And with my DVD's episode title for this is that it just didn't really involve Dr. Gory at all. It mainly involved Karis having a day off, just disguising himself as maybe an old lady or some kind of some kind of really out there Western type of person trying to quote unquote blend in.
All I can say is that was wild. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the goofiest things I've ever seen. And I thought I had seen an awful lot of goofy stuff between a couple different shows of Ultraman, Iron King, Red Baron, a couple other tokusatsu things here and there too. And then I come to Spectre Man, and then I realize, yeah, this stuff can get weirder.
I told you I told you this show is going to be really interesting.
This particular episode only has a modicum of connection between what happened previously and to where it's eventually going to head. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, it's a complete episode that you could drop and not miss a beat on anything, because nothing of real value happens here. Mm-hmm. That's going to necessarily affect what's about to come, except for the fact that Gory is getting pissed at Karis for screwing up time, because he's saying, oh, you know, you're always after that woman and stuff. But as we're going to talk here, when we get into the next two episodes, he still continues to go back to Karis for most of his dirty work. By the way, speaking of Dr. Gory, can we just say for certain now, he most likely looked at Yoshio Tsuchiya's performance as the controller of Planet X and decided that's how he was going to approach the character of Dr. Gory, because it either was in this episode or the next episode where he started doing elaborate hand gestures, like, I'm going to be the master.
And see, I think this is one of the things that I think, in my opinion, that Dr. Gory is probably one of the most fascinating villains in the entire Showa Tokusatsu TV shows, is that it's just, I really like whoever did the English dub for this character. It just really suits him very, very well. And then the actor himself portraying as Dr. Gory and just doing these over elaborate type of hand and arm gestures and everything. I just love
consecutive episodes.
I just love the character so much.
I do too. Look, I will say this: like the actor portraying him is doing a good job, but at the same time, I would give him a bit more credit. Because I am going to assume, without evidence, that he looked at Yoshio Tsuchiya's performance as the controller of Planet X, and even as Tsuchiya's performance as the head of the Mysterians, and studied him and is like, okay, because I'm going to be behind a mask. Although this mask, yeah, I can kind of move my mouth and do a few things with it as far as expressions go. By and large, I'm going to have to be more expressive with the rest of my body. So therefore, I got to figure out some hand gestures. Whether or not the writers or directors of this show told him to do that, or if this was his own doing, regardless, whoever is responsible for this, yeah, is brilliant. But at the same time, I wish I could be more impressed with it, but I can't, because movies like Mysterians and Astro Monster came before this series, and I've seen something like this before. But yeah, I mean, still, him as a villain, I still think is very intriguing, and part of it is the fact that he's so expressive with his arms and his hands, and he does weird, I don't want to say sign language because it's not real sign language, but he does his own version of that when he's talking, and he's been more expressive about it within this batch of episodes. And he does the same thing. He's like, "You found the base." And he does something like Master. Like, I forget how he does it, but like there was one where
and then he
Master,
and then he always does this too.
Yeah, and like
yeah.
We could do that all day, but
yeah, it's like, compared to all the other villains that we've known through other tokusatsu TV shows in this time period, it's like a lot of them are just oversimplified, whereas Dr. Gory, they actually gave him a much more detailed backstory and everything that you saw in or heard from us in episode 1, and then kind of leading up to him working and completing his secret base on Earth. And it's just, he's one of the most, if not the most interesting character in this entire TV show.
Does your DVD have the unaired pilot of the show?
What do you mean?
There was a pilot episode that was not aired. My DVD set has that. It's a full episode, but they never showed it.
What did the pilot episode do? Was it kind of like the backstory?
I didn't watch it. But it did, according to the previews, because my DVD, when I go over an episode, it'll play like 30 seconds or so from it. It looked like, it went into more depth, potentially, with Dr. Gory. But
it kind of went to his backstory of how he used to been this great scientist and everything, but then over time he started delving into things where
but that's what the episode actually got. This looks like it dives even further. Like, do you have that, the unaired pilot?
I don't think so. I would have to look into it.
Because mine does, and I thought about watching it for this, but I thought, well, I wanted to check with you first to see if you had it, because if you did, I thought that would be something we could cover the next time. But maybe I need to talk about it even if you don't have it. But according to the preview,
or possibly maybe check at least YouTube, because I know there's channels on YouTube that have some of the full episodes of Spectreman.
Yeah, my DVD, though, has that unaired pilot. I'm really curious as to what was a part of that, because according to the visual previews, it looked like it really went deeper into his story than what we got initially. But that's something maybe I'll cover going into our next Spectreman segment a few weeks from now. But yeah, do we want to give our final thoughts and rating this episode 4?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
All right, I'm going to try to go slowly because I keep getting word that for whatever reason when I do my final thoughts on here, my audio tends to not do well. I'm starting to think this series should actually be titled something like The Misadventures of Karas, since most of the episodes center around Karas and how he's always bungling up parts of Dr. Gory's plans. Nevertheless, Karas was correct in saying that Earthlings must be stupid to not notice him, because his costume still did a horrific job of covering him up well enough so he goes unnoticed. Dr. Gory's plan, too, of returning Earth to its rightful state really is the thing I can get on board with. As I mentioned about some other episodes and movies in the past, a lot of the reason why some of the villains are considered bad is because they want to extinguish humanity. Certainly considering the amount of damage humanity has done to the planet, why not? Greed, willful ignorance, laziness, and selfishness are the reasons why not enough change has been made to make the planet better. It is a real LSD trip of an episode that had me laughing with it and at it. Also, if Spectre-Man can turn larger, why didn't he do that the previous episode? An episode that regains some of its footing after the last two questionable episodes, and I give it a B+.
Okay. As far as I go, as far as the edits to this episode, things just didn't quite add up or make sense at times here and there, and then after, like, it starts off where episode 3 left off, but then it seemed like it sort of veered quite a ways from that to where it was sort of its own different entity. And as I mentioned, as far as the title to my DVD for this episode, like, called the Fury of Dr. Gory in here, but it didn't really involve Gory much at all. It was basically Karas' day off, disguising himself in a goofy way, observing human behavior here and there, and then eventually going on the rampage and then getting defeated by Spectre-Man in the end. So it was... They say it was part of a two-parter from episode 3, but it was basically a complete different animal, veered off from what episode 1 usually was all about here. And it's just a really goofy episode. So with this one, I would give it a C.
Wow, you gave it a lower grade than I did. All right. Episode
It was
5.
mainly because of the post production edits that just didn't.
I think if episodes 2 and 3 were better than I thought they were, I probably would have given this down into the C range. But because if you remember the last time we talked about Spectre-Man, I thought the quality and everything about the show up to that point kept getting worse with each episode. And I think this, in some ways, even though it is indeed stupid, don't get me wrong, I thought in some ways that stupidity and sort of embrace it, again, going back to Ultra 7, how we had talked about so many times of that show. One of its biggest problems was that it was such a goofy show that it took itself way too seriously, and it needed to embrace its silliness, and that didn't happen too often. Hence the reason why both you and I were not very, very high on that series. And here we are quickly getting a series where the writers, producers, everyone involved realizes, look, what we're dealing with is just some wacko stuff here, and so they're embracing that, and that's one of the things I like about it. Is again, is the whole premise of the stupid? Absolutely, it's stupid, but they're going with it, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. Is that you know you're stupid and silly, but if you embrace that, that's what makes it better, because you're making the audience part of the, they're kind of in on the joke, and that was one of the reasons why the 66 Batman series was so popular with the adults. The adults knew it was complete and absolute nonsense, But yet the show knew that too, and that's why you had all that tongue-in-cheek stuff going on throughout each episode of that series. So, for me personally, this block is sort of coming back and reiterating itself because it is embracing its complete nonsense. So that's why I have it up a little bit higher. But episode 5, Terrifying Pollution People.
Or just Pollution People, Part 1.
Okay. All right, take it away.
Yeah, this one here, I think, compared to the previous episode that we reviewed, I'd say at least the post-production editing and then as well as the story for this one, for me, tend to make much more sense to where everything, you kind of know what's going on this time around. There's an actual plot, kind of a plot device to tie everything together for this particular episode, including the next episode, which is the second part to this episode here. And you basically had Gory at the very beginning kidnaps another ape from a zoo and turns him into a minion and then names him Car. Kind of almost
that's what I heard.
Almost looks similar to Kara's in that regard, as far as the outfit and everything. And when you had that facial expression there, it was kind of sort of similar to what Kara's had after Dr. Gory names him, names this one. Kara's like, hey, it's kind of sounds familiar.
It's like Dr. Gory is trolling Karas. Like, you're not going to be the full Karas because you're a bungling baboon, but you're going to be Ka.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. And I think this is also another reason why Dr. Gory is such a fascinating character, because you don't realize that he's sort of trying to piss off Kara's, where he's Kara's been disappointing Dr. Gory so much, so he's trying to sometimes provoke Kara's in a way. Although it's been many years since I've last watched Spectre Man, but I can still remember Gory being, a fascinating character and trying to be like a smart ass sort of character.
I think what needs to be said though about Dr. Gory and this whole acquisition of Ka is that Dr. Gory is being very passive aggressive about this. He occasionally will have an direct outburst at Karas for being an idiot, but then he will be very passive aggressive about it most of the other time as well, which I find to be not only sort of weak, but at the same time funny, because again, it is almost like he's trolling Karas as well, saying, hey, look what I got, this brand new henchman. He's also a gorilla, and guess what? He's named Ka. Yeah, that's right, just Ka.
Yeah.
It's just so passive aggressive.
And so after all that takes place, you had Overlord ordering Joji, or George, however you want to go by the main character's name, basically ordering him to go to a specific location to take soil samples and send it to them so that they can investigate about a possible Gory base location and everything. So Gory gets wind of this apparently and makes Karas big to where he wreaks havoc on Tokyo. So he basically goes King Kong throughout Tokyo and going on top of his building, but then he stays there for hours, and then to where it's daytime.
He's dangling
and
his
he just
legs.
dangling his legs and sitting on top of a skyscraper here, and then it's like, oh, if Spectre Man doesn't come around, I'll destroy more buildings and everything. So he destroys a couple buildings here and there, and then you get Spectre Man arriving, confronting Karas, and then they duke it out from there. But then you had a couple kids here, Terry or Jerry, and then Josh. And I have to say, they kind of have some of the unique dub voices in this one, and just kind of how they speak in this one here. I don't know how to describe it.
It's adults doing the voices.
It's sort of like your typical sort of 50s or 60s type of talk back in the day. Something like that, but you're going to have to watch it. But then you had, after the fight between Spectre Man and Karas, you have Joji turn back to human, talking with Josh, saying, what's the matter? It seems like you lost a friend. He's like, yeah, I did. And then Terry's like disappears because he had Ka Okar kidnap both Terry or Jerry and his family, and Gory basically implants this sort of disease,
pollution breath,
like this pollution disease, where once you breathe on someone, that they get this disease and coughing and all that. And so he sends them back into their apartment, and Joji notices something suspicious going on. He had this like a milkman or grocery man starting to get infected, and then it's like what's the matter and everything. And then towards the end, Overlord orders Joji or Spectre Man to kill the people that were infected.
This is one of my biggest problems with it.
Where like Joji is trying to refuse, giving out the order.
This series, holy crap! There's more to this than there was the last episode. First and foremost, I'm going to preempt something that I was going to say in my final thoughts with the next episode, and my apologies, because you will hear this again here in like another 10 or 15 minutes when we get to that episode. But these overlords and Dr. Gory are very incompetent idiots, because again, I just said in our discussion of the last episode, Dr. Gory is going to continue to go to Karas for most of his shenanigans, and then the overlords are getting pissed at Spectre Man not obeying them, yet Spectre Man is this cyborg, and I'm thinking to myself, well, you're responsible for putting him together. If you didn't want him to disobey your commands, why didn't you program that into him? And spoiler alert, I want to say this. Spoiler alert for the next episode.
Before you get to your spoiler, the other thing with Overlord is that, Joji or Spectre Man asks, is there any other way to, go around this? And the Overlord is like, no, there's no other way.
Spoiler alert, there is. And even the Overlord tells Spectre Man when he's on the verge of ready to kill these people in the next episode, says, well, we may not have to kill them after all. And I'm like, I don't want these people leading my civilization. I don't want these people being the leaders of the country when you're like, kill them. And then 5 minutes later, maybe not. You may not have to. Just, oh my gosh, people, I am hating the overlords, and they're supposed to be the good guys. And these guys are nothing but dicks. They are evil people in and of themselves. And one of the things I'm at the point of wanting to see now is Spectre Man at some point in the series to go back to his home world and to destroy these overlords, because these guys really have no clue as to what they're talking about or even doing. They're telling him to do this and that. Yeah, there's no other way. On second thought, maybe there is. And it's what the fuck, dude? Like, seriously. It's just, that was the part that frustrated me so much during this block of episodes, was that you guys are supposed to be like the Zordon or the Gandalf of this group, and you guys are actually worse than the hero you created, because the hero in some ways is supposed to be less powerful and less knowing than you are, but yet your hero is better than you are.
And then
just
well, like I said, it's been many years since I've last watched this, and then watching it again, it's like I'm not sure if I even realize and how sort of bad or incompetent the Overlord
they're
is in this.
awful.
And it got to the point, I think it was in this episode or the next episode, it got to the point where Joji even questions like, are we basically doing the same thing that Gory is doing at this point?
So that is, yes, you are.
And I think after that answer or something, I think it's sort of like the Overlord sort of went silent at that point or something.
A 5-year-old could have figured that out. I mean, just the stupidity. Even with the children's show, your main sort of grandfatherly figure of your hero or group of heroes is supposed to be the one to deliver the moral messages, to be like, look, I understand why you may want to kill these people, but that's not what we're about. There are better ways of going about this. And then they go about explaining why and how to do it. The overlords are like, nah, kill him. Just kill him. It's just, I can't believe this.
The one thing is probably interesting. I know it's basically true that like the English dub versions usually change some of the plot points and plot and talking points compared to the original version. I would like to know, as far as the original version, how that went and how they sort of went about sort of things, but I don't know with their expressions and everything. I'm not sure if it was sort of different, but I know that's usually the case when it came to the animes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be that different because, like you said, the facial expressions and everything else, said that everything by and large is on the level. And let's give because this episode goes into the next episode. Let's kind of conclude this and get on, because this episode is really goofy, but the biggest problem I have, like I just talked about, end up coming in the next episode.
But at least with this episode compared to episode 4, it's much more coherent. You at least have some kind of plot device.
Despite it makes it more stupid.
Pollution disease here. And the story, the edits, and everything else made much more sense this time around. But then when it comes to trying to find a solution to avoid killings, those that are infected and all that stuff. Oh, the one thing I wanted to point out that it only happened once but never been brought back was that Gory ordered Karas to transform people into pollution people via like this drinking potion, where Karas had forced this type of potion or something on this one cop and killed the cop, and that was basically it. You never seen this type of potion or something again. So that just seemed
move
like
on.
It was random, but
the series is not about filling plot holes.
Well, other than that, episode 5 was much better as far as having a coherent plot plot point or device and that's consistent throughout this entire episode. So I would give part 1 of Pollution People a B.
Okay. Dr. Gory and the Overlords are beginning to be their own worst enemies in this series. Dr. Gory is always upset at how incompetent Karis is, but he continues to send him out to do his bidding, even after changing an actual gorilla into his henchman. The Overlords who built Spectre-Man are upset he won't obey them, even though they are the ones who constructed him. This episode is fairly entertaining otherwise, given that we have a giant Spectre-Man facing off against a giant Karis. It becomes a bit funny beforehand when we see Karis, after spending the night waiting for Spectre-Man to show up atop a skyscraper, sitting on that same skyscraper the following morning, swinging his legs around impatiently waiting. Some interesting cuts here, such as George having magically barricaded the family in their home after it's discovered Dr. Gory gave them pollution breath. This series is starting to turn nuts. I give it a B+. Yes, that is my final sentence. This series is starting to turn nuts. All right.
So let's move on to part 2 of Pollution People.
Yeah, episode 6 on my DVD is titled Save the Beautiful Earth.
Yeah, mine is just Pollution People part 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, basically, starts off where episode 5 leaves off. And all of a sudden, you had Joji still being conflicted as far as the orders being given to him by Overlord. So he goes back to the apartment complex where this family lives, and it's like, get back in the apartment, or you can't go anywhere, or else you get other people infected by this pollution disease. And then after that, he barricades their door with, like, I would say 4x4 like boards around their door.
That was the last episode he did. And then he welded it shut. I think, was it this episode?
Well, in the middle of the episode. But, he actually barricades the door in this episode for me. And, so he, after that, Joji calls the chief about, the family being infected by this pollution disease. And, with the chief and some of the other people at this pollution teams, it's like, he's probably given all, being a conspiracy theories and all that stuff. It's like, let's just go over there and check things out, because, he was maybe once or twice in the past and everything. But, and then after that, you have Carr breaking open
Carl,
the barricade to this family's front apartment door, and then kidnaps Rita and gets her infected
again. Kidnaps Rita again.
Well, not again. Now it's Karis. This is Ka this time around.
I know, but see, here's the thing. For whatever reason, they got a thing for Rita.
Yeah, or just not have Rita go anywhere by herself or something for that.
I don't get it, but oh well. I'm not a damn dirty ape, so.
And then here's the thing. You mentioned about it earlier, where you have Overlord still ordering Joji to destroy the infected people, but then at this point, it seems like Joji's like, fuck it, or something like that, and then he transforms into Spectre-Man, and he was close the first time around killing this family. But then in the end, he still refuses to kill the family, and thus still disappointing Overlord. So not only he tried to, he was close to destroying the infected, not only once, but twice in this episode.
What the hell are we getting ourselves into? Oh, by the way, you haven't gotten to the real fun stuff yet.
And so after, was it Spectre Man refusing to kill those that were infected with this pollution disease, the overlords basically punish Spectre Man, and I think they take his powers away and basically send him into space to like exile and all that. And then you had Gory telling Karis and or Ka to, basically this is your opportunity to destroy Spectre Man. So they go into space with nothing but a bubble helmet in space, like beating him up in space, and then they go into, I'm not sure if it was Mars or
it's like a desert planet. It was something. It was like U571 or something like that. Like it was an obscure name.
And there was at least several minutes worth of a scene where they were kind of going slow-mo.
It's all slow-mo for like 5 minutes or so.
Just nothing but both Karis and Ka.
You could just pick one. You don't need to do the car.
Beating the daylights out of Spectre Man within
in a very amateur way.
In a animated state or whatever state that he's in,
like a low power state.
and then once Karis and Ka beat Spectre Man up pretty bad, then you had Overlord talking to Spectre Man. It's like, oh, we'll give you your powers back so you can go back to Earth and all that. So they gave him his powers back. He
if you defeat the apes.
And beats both Karis and Ka in this. He goes back to Earth. He was about to destroy the infected once again. And then this is where Overlord's like, no, wait. There's actually a way. You can use your Spectre Flash to cure the infected. It's like, you should have known this to begin with because
you made the guy.
Because you made Spectre Man to begin with.
Oh no! Wait a minute! Like that. You know what would have been funnier is if he killed people, and then the Overlord's like, "Oh, wait a minute! We didn't need to kill them after all."
Where it would give Joji PTSD, like serious PTSD after that.
What a stupid episode! This is so stupid. I mean, you have this ridiculous, over-the-top, amateurish fight in slow motion on this exiled desert planet that looks so funny and at the same time horrible. And the Overlords are like, well, we didn't expect you to have company during your exile. So if we give you your powers back and you defeat the apes, you can go back to Earth. And it's like, well, yeah, that's the prize right there. Go back to Earth and like being that dumb piece, it's having all of its problems. And so they get the powers back. He defeats apes, and then he goes back to Earth. It just, oh my gosh. Wait a minute, we don't need to kill him. You got the Spectre Ray, duck. Like we're stupid. Like, just these Overlords have no idea what the hell they're doing. Like, oh, you got company. We didn't want you to have company on your exile. It's like, first and foremost, it's not like it was his fault. It was the bad guys who found him in space, decided to follow him there. Not his fault. And then on top of that, you're like, we made a mistake. Here's your powers back to the apes and go back to Earth. And then oh, wait a minute. You don't have to kill him after all. We kind of forgot you got the Spectre Ray. I mean, it's just like we're dealing with. What's that purple guy's name from the McDonald's crew? Grimace? Is that the guy's name? It's like we're dealing with Grimace here from the McDonald's crew. We're dealing with someone a few bricks shy full load here as your overlords. It's just like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And I'm just like, what? It just. None of this makes sense, and it's Spectre Man's fault. It's your fault that these two followed you from space into your exile planet, and now, oh yeah, we kind of made a mistake. Go back to Earth. Yeah, we told you to kill those people. You don't need to kill them anymore. It just, what the hell? It just. Oh,
and sometimes it kind of makes you think why Fuji TV, who made this show back in the early 70s, why they haven't really gone back to possibly rebooting the whole series, or haven't revisited it.
I can give you 6 episodes as to why you shouldn't. I mean, it's just, here's the thing. Again, like I said a little while ago, I said this thing is so stupid that it's stupid, but it's so stupid that it's
so stupid that it's stupid.
Yeah, it's so stupid that it's stupid, but it's also so stupid that it's funny, and I go along with it. This is the episode where I'm going, this is the dumbest one out of the entire bunch so far, that I absolutely love it, because now they're embracing just how ridiculous they are, and they don't care. They're like, look, we understand you people are out there complaining about this. We don't care. This is what we're going to do, and we understand it's ridiculous. And I'm like, all right, bravo. At least you're doing something that Ultra 7 just didn't have the guts to do, and to embrace the inherent silliness and stupidness that is your whole show. So, I mean, this is on the one hand incredibly frustrating, considering how poorly the overlords are as overlords. But then on top of that, too, just some of the ridiculous decisions that you scratch your head at as some person who is supposedly sane. But then you realize, oh, they know what they're doing, and they are proud of it too.
and to me, I think this is sort of where you kind of see the pinnacle, like the top pinnacle of crazy tokusatsu TV shows when it gets to this point where you get all this craziness happen, really crazy, stupid decisions happening here, and just sort of get some of the outlandish scenes and story happening within just one episode. This is sort of like, like kind of the top-notch crazy tokusatsu episodes that you get to see.
And this is one of those where we could sit here for the 2 hours describing what happens, and it wouldn't do it justice. You have to see it to believe it. Go on to YouTube if they have it. Search up like Save the Beautiful Earth or whatever.
Or Pollution People Part 2.
Yeah, look it up, and you have to watch it. I mean, this thing has to be seen to be believed. This thing is, no pun intended, out of this world crazy. I mean, it's
like with us reviewing it via talking about it, it's like it just does not do justice for it. You have to see it.
It's crazy. Death Kappa, when we covered that a long time ago, it was one of the craziest, most stupidest things I've ever seen. I think Spectre Man, this episode in particular, is surpassed that. I mean, it's like, wow, like this is taking habanero hot sauce and adding a ghost pepper to it or something. Like this is just,
or
this is next level stuff.
Or probably say the Carolina Reaper pepper.
Add a ghost pepper plus like 5 Carolina Reapers, like just
or at least doing the one chip challenge.
Oh man. I mean, it's something else. It's just you have to believe it.
Yeah. Basically, it's basically sort of getting to that point. He see why I say that you're going to at least be interested when you see Spectre Man. It's like it just.
I am interested, but at the same time, I'm ripping my hair because the overlords are probably dumber than the villains, which is very disconcerting.
Yeah.
It's just
basically.
Oh, and you're supposed to be the good guys.
Yeah.
And you guys aren't.
And I even said earlier that it's been a long time since I've last seen Spectre Man, and it's like I don't quite remember the Overlord being this was it ignorant or oblivious or having such bad decisions in some areas.
Just terrible, awful, no good, very bad day. It's awful. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm actually like, Dr. Gory's looking like a champ compared to these guys. Like, I'm kind of like, man. Like,
maybe you're sort of starting to question like the whole backstory of like the feud between Dr. Gory and the Overlords or Planet E. It's like, it's like is the like the story sort of like being told by us from like the Overlords or the Simian Planet E, like are they trying to actually manipulate us in some sort of way? It's like it's sort of kind of at that point.
One of the things that would really, in my opinion, make me think very, very highly of the series, and to give it like a bravo type of deal, would be that this thing ends up actually being more sophisticated than we are led to believe. That, yeah, Dr. Gory actually is the hero and the Overlords are actually the villains. I don't think that's the case. But
no, but that would be probably the most intriguing and interesting story to have ever come up if it was during this time period. Be like, yeah, this is like top notch tokusatsu show of its day.
I would love to see that. In fact, I think we just wrote the than what this actually is. So.
Let's definitely reboot Spectre Man.
Let's reboot Spectre Man
for the 21st
because we can make it better. We just proved that we made it better.
Yeah.
You don't need anything else. Just that one little plot issue, and we just made the whole series better.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, do we want to go into final thoughts on this good piece of shit?
Yeah. Why don't you go right ahead?
All right. The show is like a cross between a circus, a 5-year-old's idea of a comic book superhero, mixed with some from his parents who are tripping on mushrooms. I am beginning to not only laugh the episodes, but more at them. On some level, I am finding the episodes now to be incredibly stupid, but I'm loving them for that same reason. Overlords all of a sudden are now telling Spectre Man he may not have to kill the family they originally told him to, and Cog and Karis are now freezing in the void of space. What the hell is going on? The slow motion battle between Spectre Man and Karis and Ka on an exile planet is just beyond silly and stupid that it has to be seen to be believed. It's so stupid too that Overlords are pissed he's sharing a planet with the 2 apes while in exile that they basically tell him, all right, this cannot stand, defeat them, go back to Earth. Who the hell are these Overlords? I wouldn't want them to be leading here in my planet or country. They're just as stupid and incompetent as Dr. Gory is when he gives Karis orders to do something. This series has my head spinning at how ridiculous it is, which makes it both entertaining and downright terrible. I'm giving this particular episode a higher grade simply because the stupid parts, which are aplenty, are so damn entertaining. I gave it an A+.
After all of that, with the ignorant decisions by the Overlord,
I told you why.
It's like this show is a piece of shit. A plus.
I just told you why though, because it's so stupid that it's funny.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, but I'm just sort of making fun of your expressions.
I know. I've been saying the whole episode, I know what they're doing here. And part of me hates it, but at the same time, part of me is like, I love this because this is what I wanted out of Ultra 7 and never got it from that show. This one is going even above and beyond what you would have expected out of something like an Ultraman or an Ultra 7.
So with that all said, and what we've gone through as far as this being continuation to episode 5, basically starting off from episode 5, and at least it's much more coherent, same plot device as the previous episode, much more better than episode 4, and better story, but just outlandish decisions here and there by the Overlord, and just some of the crazy over the top slow-mo fights in this. And you have Carson Carr going into space with just a bubble glass helmet here without any air packs for that matter.
Thing to protect them from the very cold void of space.
Yeah. And then just the decisions and everything. But with that said, I don't think I can say any more than what we've already said. I would at least give Pollution People Part 2, a B.
I thought I would have given it an A minus.
I'm not as crazy as you.
No. Here's the thing. It took me this whole section of episodes to really fully realize that this show finally understood what it was and embraced it. Even though, yes, again, for the umpteenth time during this podcast episode, there is a part of me that is like, this is the dumbest thing ever. But at the same time, I am loving it because the show itself knows it is dumb. And it's just like, whatever. We're going to do whatever we want, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And so that's one of the reasons why by this episode, with the stupidity of the overlords, and then that ridiculous fight on that exiled planet, I am sold. It's dumb, but I am sold because now I know these writers and these producers are like, look, we trashing already. Like, there's no going back. Like, why not just continue down the path? So,
if we disguise Karis in ridiculous outfits and everything, it's like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more that can be said other than some of this stuff has to be seen to be believed. This is, I think, turning into a retrospective that I am telling
great
listeners
spectacle.
and viewers that you really need to be following along to really understand just how preposterous this whole thing is.
Like, it's a great tokusatsu spectacle of a TV show.
It's a great spectacle of doing drugs. I mean, I think this is what doing drugs feels like. I mean, it's just it's just unbelievable. Just what you're seeing and what you're hearing. It's like, what? Like, but that said, thank you so much for listening or watching. We will be back in a couple of weeks. We'll be covering episodes 7 through 9 of Kamen Rider. And yeah, that's what you have to look forward to. It will not be as crazy as this stuff, but I'm sure there will be something entertaining to discuss.
Yeah, so excuse me there. Before we close out, I just wanted to do the last excuse me, geez whiz. The last housekeeping here. That you can see right in front of you here. You can find everything Daikaiju Network all in one place at our Linktree page, Linktree / Daikaiju Network, and we're on the following platforms here: YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, and then I'll need to get around to adding Facebook Live in there soon after. And then we're on the following audio platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. And you can find both versions of our episodes, video and audio versions, and as well as some blogs whenever we get around to posting those from time to time at our own website at daikaijunetwork.com.
All right. So with that, thank you so much for watching or listening, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Take it easy, everyone.